So I decided to paint this Adeptus Arbites, however you say it, for Patreon. You know, no special reason. I've got several things in mind that I want to do, and I'm like, how do I fit them all in? So I thought, well, this will be a good one to just kind of paint for patrons and talk about what I'm trying to do with it, and maybe it'll be helpful. What's interesting about this to me, besides just the figure itself, which I think looks cool, certainly, but what's most interesting to me is the painting it black. It sounds kind of overly simplistic, but getting black highlighted and shaded and, you know, looking good in terms of painting minis, but at the same time having it still read as black and not too blue or too green or too grayscale or something like that can be a challenge. So I've been watching various videos about painting figures that are black Templars. You know, I got a whole list of them over here on my computer, and I've completely forgotten all the ones that I had. But just different factions within 40K, and different ways that people paint them black. And it's interesting because some will highlight them with various gray colors. Some will use various blue colors. Some will use some greenish colors. I've seen some who went for a warmer kind of, not quite brown, but maybe, I don't know, maybe reddish brown. And some of them, like I was watching not Darren Latham. There used to be a channel called Darren Latham. He's a painter and figure designer at Games Workshop, and he had his own channel and was putting out some really helpful stuff. And then, of course, Games Workshop decided that was against the rules, told him to take it down, and so he did. But somebody apparently saved his videos and started a channel called Not Darren Latham and put them back up, or at least some of them. So they're still out there. But anyway, I was watching how he painted black, and Richard Gray, who I highly recommend his channel, fabulous channel on painting minis. And there's a channel called Infernal Brush. The guy's name is Dave Perryman behind it. He's a former heavy metal painter. If you're not familiar with heavy metal, that's the painting studio within Games Workshop that does all of the box art and things like that. Apparently they have different teams. They have an army painting team, and they're called the army painting team or something clever like that. And then they've got the heavy metal team, and they're the ones who do the kind of the star figures, you know, the ones that have all the highlighting and stuff like that. I really like Dave Perryman's channel, the Infernal Brush channel. Hang on, let me get this back in focus. All right, I think that's in focus. It can sometimes be a challenge to get things in focus because I use my phone to film, and I'll get it in focus, but because the depth of field of the camera is very limited, if I start moving around a bit, then it can get out of focus real easy. But because I'm focusing, no pun intended, on the painting, I miss looking at the screen of my camera, my phone, to see that it's out of focus. So if I get out of focus, as I quite often say, I do apologize. But anyway, So I've looked at these videos, and I see there's different ways of doing it. There's the edge highlighting style like you see with heavy metal. Richard Gray, if you've seen his work, tends to be more of what's called the grim dark style, and his tends to be more about volumes and light and shapes like that. I mean, he does use edge highlights, but not in the same way that say the heavy metal team would. So I like his method too. He uses a lot more stippling and glazing and things like that to kind of build up colors and transitions and things. He's an award-winning painter. If you're familiar with the Golden Demon Awards, he's won those. He's won the Slayer Sword twice, which is like when they have the Golden Demon contests or painting contests. You know, you can win a Golden Demon in several different categories, you know, in this category or that category, but then they pick the overall winner and they give them just literally a giant sword called the Slayer Sword, and that's what they win when they are determined to be the best among all the others there. The best of the best of the best, sir. Spot that reference. But I think I'm going to go with Dave Perryman's method. Looks like my paint's getting a little thin there. Let me mix it back up. But I'm going to go with Dave Perryman's method. It's weird. Do you see how it's not adhering there? That's really weird because of the rest of the model, it's not had any problems. And here it's not wanting to adhere. But everything is primed exactly the same. That's odd. Oh well. Rambling. But I'm gonna go for something like the heavy metal look. And I say something like because I hold no illusions that I will paint it that well. I'll emulate it. I'll attempt to paint it in that style. I'll use the things that Dave Perryman says in his video that he does, and I'll try to do that. But I don't kid myself. I doubt that's where I'll end up. The part that I'm attempting now is what's called a chunky highlight. And when I first heard that term, I mean, I got it intuitively. But I was like, yeah, but how chunky? I mean, what precisely are we talking about? And Dave Perryman had a simple answer for it. He basically said your chunky highlight needs to be about twice as wide as your finest highlight. He said, so, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, so whatever you can do as your finest highlight, double that, that's your chunky highlight. Because what you're trying to do when you're painting this style, and I apologize for moving so slow, but I'm trying to see if I can keep it in focus, as well as get myself in where I can see what I'm doing. But he said what you're trying to do is have a gradual transition from the darker color to the light. But it's not, the heavy metal style is not using blends and gradients and things like that, but very sharp, distinct, and precise highlighting. Now, I don't know that anything I do is ever sharp and distinct, but I'm trying. One thing I am trying, another thing that Dave Perryman recommended is you might notice that this brush is a shorter, pointier brush. This is a Rosemary & Co. Series 93 Pure Sable brush. The Kolinsky Sable brushes, they don't ship them here to the U.S. and they can be kind of difficult to get. But for some reason, the Series 93, Series 33 is the Kolinsky sable. The Series 93 is pure sable. I have no idea what the difference is. But what it means is I could order these from Rosemary & Co. and at a very, very reasonable price. The shipping was not any more than it would be here if I ordered them from the U.S. Now, there's not a lot of people in the U.S. here that carry these. Can't get them from Wind River Arts. They're nice enough people, but it's literally a mom and pop operation. And they literally ship them from their home. You have to call them up, and sometimes I'm not able to make a call during the workday because we got some rules about that, and have to be very careful of how you do personal things on company time, which I understand. I'm not complaining about. They sign my checks, and I'm thankful for that. But anyway, getting online, but they don't track what we do on the internet, so getting online and ordering directly from Rosemary & Co. is very easy. So, but he suggests using these shorter, more pointed. They're a little stiffer because they're shorter. This would be the equivalent of an Artis Opus Series M brush in terms of shape. The Artis Opus Series M is essentially a Rosemary & Co. Series 323, just for like half the cost. So I ordered this Series 93, and I've only been using them for a little while, but I'm very, very happy with them. And I also like doing it this way that Perryman suggested, which instead of trying to lean the model and use the edge of the brush, use the side of the brush to do your edge highlighting, he recommended use the tip. And I've actually found that to be easier, and I've had more success with it than trying to use the edge of the brush, because many painters will tell you to use the edge of the brush and run it along like that. And there's sometimes where that does make more sense. But I've felt I've had more success doing it this way than I had the other way. The other way was actually kind of frustrating me. If I hadn't mentioned, I can't remember if I have, this paint is a 50-50 mix of Abaddon Black and Stegodon Scale Green, using Dave Perryman's, I know I keep bringing his name up, but that's who's on my mind, using his recipe for how he paints black. And what he does is he basically shows you the recipes that the heavy metal team uses. He actually has a website. I can't remember the domain name, but I will link it down in the description. And I'd actually put up a Patreon post a few weeks back about the website, but I'll link it in the description of this video. But it has the various recipes, so if you're interested in that style or even just those colors, then that's a great place to look. But I'm really liking using this brush for this particular method. It's shorter, it's got a little more control, it's still got a fairly big belly so that it's holding a reasonable amount of paint, but the shorter tip, I just find it much easier to use than when I was trying to use this is a size 0. When I was trying to use my Series 33 or a Series 99 size 0, it's a great brush for general, for painting, but for this kind of work, I found it had too much flex in it. But using this slightly shorter brush, Perryman uses a Winsor & Newton brush, but he had recommended the Rosemary & Co. Series 323, but because I couldn't get that, I contacted Rosemary & Co. and said, do you have an alternate for the 323 that I can order here in the U.S.? And they recommended the Series 93. So here I am. So I'm going to continue doing these. Sorry if it's out of focus. And I will say it looks a lot more stark on camera. When I'm looking at it on the camera, I'm like, whoa, that's stark. In real life, it's not near as stark. I don't know why the difference, but it's not near as stark. So, which is kind of interesting to me, because when I saw this being done on YouTube, I'm like, wow, that's a huge difference in value. But now that I'm looking at the difference between what I see on camera and what I actually see in real life, now I kind of understand a little better. The other thing about this technique that he pointed out is, once you do these, you go back, and if there's any areas where you get it, where it's not quite in control, you're not quite happy with it, you just go back with the base color, in this case the Abaddon Black, and you just clean that up. So I'm really liking this process. I wish my eyes were better. I think it would be a lot more fun if I had a better vision. So it's definitely a struggle, but I'm enjoying trying this and trying to make this work. Now, this has absolutely nothing to do with painting models or painting minis, but you see all these mini painters, and you're watching the video and you're enjoying the video, and all of a sudden they somehow segue into a Squarespace commercial, or, NordVPN, or the other day, I've seen all sorts of products, and some are related to Skillshare or something like that. Some of them are related to mini painting, some aren't. And I guess if somebody's, sponsoring you, and you're doing this to make a living, well, that's just part of making a living. So I don't begrudge them that. Although I did find something. I was watching the Painting Phase, their podcast that they do, and they said something I didn't realize, that if somebody sponsors you, most cases you don't get paid unless it reaches a certain number of people, unless there's a certain amount of viewership. You just don't get paid. So I found that interesting. I mean, it makes sense from an advertising standpoint, but I found that interesting. Anyway, I say all that to say, if somebody were to sponsor me, I mean, that'd be cool, whoever did it, I suppose. But I would want something that I'm like, okay, this is just something that I actually will use, that I really enjoy. I mean, I don't care what it has, whether it has anything to do with painting. If I could get these guys to sponsor me, this is something that the last time we went on a trip out to see my grandson, and this is not sponsored, this is just me just telling you, I really like this stuff. We stopped at a gas station. I said, get me some kind of tea. Now, I'm diabetic, so I control it with exercise and eating, and just a few meds, nothing drastic. But I said, get me something that's unsweet tea. Well, she found this that's very low sugar, but it's got this peach flavor. Man, this stuff is awesome. I cannot get enough of this stuff. It's really good. So if anybody knows anybody at Pure Leaf, and they're looking to sponsor, a YouTube painter, send them my way, because I could drink this stuff all day long. It's great stuff, though. And now back to our regularly scheduled program. All right, now it gets harder. Now I'm going to go in with Stegodon Scale Green. I'm going to do more edge highlights. And this time, theoretically getting it inside those that I just painted, but not completely covering them up. And I say theoretically because I mentioned earlier that the guy that I'm following his example, Dave Perryman, said you paint your first edge highlights twice as wide as you can paint your finest edge highlight. And now I'm wishing I would have painted that first edge highlight a little wider. I thought I was painting it twice as wide as I could, but my hand control is not real good this morning. So I may have to go in and do some corrections, or just accept that this may be the best I can do at this point. I think sometimes that's That's key. You know, at least for me, it's just going, okay, that's probably what I'm going to be able to do at this point. So I just need to learn to live with it. Let me see if I'm still in focus. Mostly. Then I got to get in with my Optivisor. Get in with the Optivisor and not bump the camera. Hang on, let me move this light just a little bit. Alright, well, I think that helps a little. Not much. But I love this Stegodon scale green color. It's kind of a... They call it Stegodon scale green, but it looks more blue. If you've seen the blue, there's a blue color that I'm seeing on cars lately. That's kind of a bluish, greenish, but a desaturated look. It's really kind of cool. It's kind of that. And I just think it looks really cool. Sometimes I look for paint schemes not because of the model, but because of the color. I think it looks really cool. Boy, I'm botching this up. I can't see what I'm doing and filming at the same time. I don't know how. I guess actual miniature painters, I guess they have a good enough camera set up that they can move the camera far enough away that it's not in their way. Because I know some of them, you know, they'll be painting and every now and then you'll see their head get in the way, so you know that the camera's kind of behind them. And I have a Canon M50 that I was told was the perfect camera for painting. And it does seem like a really nice camera, but I can't figure out how to make it work. And in pricing the hardware to mount it up and get it set where I need to, I'm like, there's no way I'm spending that much money on hardware when I don't know that suddenly people are going to come flooding to the channel because they go, wow, John's got some really good hardware and really good camera. So I will just keep going with my phone like I have it. And thank you guys for putting up with... Am I in focus? I think I am. Putting up with my lack of skill in this field. If you watch me at work, I can build web pages. I know how to do that. But I'm still learning here. But I guess you always have to learn. Well, I'm not going to get this guy painted in one episode, obviously. So I'm going to go ahead and call this episode 1. Because you don't want to sit here and watch me paint these lines in. It's actually quite painful because I realized I'm gripping this painting handle with a death grip. I didn't realize it until my hand just started cramping up, and now I'm trying to relax it. But anyway, I will continue painting these edge highlights, and then I'll start filming when it's time to move on to the next color. I mean, one more round of edge highlights on this, I think. And then maybe 2. I got to look back at Dave Perryman's video, and I may decide that I can't do that many. But then I'll start painting in some of the other colors and things like that. So anyway, thank you so much for being a patron. I hope that something in this video has been either useful or entertaining or, like I always say, nap-inducing, which I think is I think has its benefit all its own. I love on a Saturday afternoon after I've been working in the yard to come in and watch Bob Ross, because one, I like watching Bob Ross, and two, I tend to take a really good nap because his voice just kind of puts me to sleep. So if my voice doesn't, maybe the subject matter will. So anyway, thanks for being a patron. Happy day to you, friends. Bye-bye.